they have a bad season, they're picking high in the order next year.
I disappoint you guys by saying that Arch Manning will probably not be in the 2026 NFL draft class. That's a 2-year plan. You got to think long term, guys. Everyone I've talked to, and I'm not going to claim to be close with Arch Manning's uncles or dad, but everyone I've talked to says that they understand the process for him. He needs 2 years as a starter in college. There's a magic number, 25 starts in college before you go to the NFL. The amount of success you have changes exponentially. I think we'll see Arch in Austin for 2 years. But there is a familiar name that will be available at the top of the 2026 draft class for you guys, and that's Garrett Nussmeier, who obviously has some connections to the state of Louisiana, has some connections to the coaching staff with the New Orleans Saints. So I think that is a name, as my dog prepares to bark here, I think that's a name that will be near the top of lists as we get ready for 2026. Nussmeier will be up there. Drew Aller from Penn State, who decided to go back to college for another year, he's going to be up there. But it is a much more, I think, exciting quarterback class with guys like Lenora Sellers. Obviously, Nico going from Tennessee to UCLA. He's a name that you at least have to be watching. So I would say next year, and we feel like this every year, right? But next year looks like it will have more top-end talent, whereas this year has more spread-out depth.
Does the Nussmeier thing qualify as like Brown and Bronny? Like, is it as cool as that, or like? but honestly, what do you think of him? Like, how does he? Like, I was hearing a little bit of hype. It sounded like this year, and then it kind of tailed off. How excited should people be about him relative to the guys in this year's class? And I guess all these guys relative to the guys in this year's class.
Yeah, Nick, I do think that, again, the top end talent is a little more exciting. And I would say Nussmeier is going to be somebody that's floated out early as a potential number 1 overall pick. He's a little bit undersized, 6 foot, 200 pounds, but he has a big arm and he moves around really well. And we're kind of in this era of the small quarterback anyway. A lot of guys are 6'1", 6'2". So it's not a huge obstacle that he's not built like Drake May or Justin Herbert, because he moves so well. And you're right, he had a lot of hype about midseason, and then he had some tough games. And I would say the same thing happened to Drew Aller. Well, like, he had some big games, and then he kind of fizzled out and didn't have the marquee moments that we were looking for. And I think Nussmeier is going to be in that. He was in that same area this year where there was that hype. Maybe he could come out and jump into a weak 2025 quarterback class. I think he made the right decision going back to LSU, getting another year of starts under his belt, showing off some of that talent that he has, some of the arm talent, but also just his experience level has to come up. And the game's going to slow down for him once he starts to get into, 20, 25 starts. We're going to see him become a different player, is the hope, at least, that he is somebody that's ascending instead of descending, which happened to some of these quarterbacks like Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck, who we thought were going to be big names this year.